Hey YouTube, welcome to another episode of News in 2 Minutes, bringing you the news that you need to know every day. Let's begin. Studies show that aspirin, a drug that has long shown to benefit a healthy heart, can cut a person's risk of developing colon cancer by up to 30%. We note that for those looking for a less synthetic way to benefit from aspirin's positive effects, the precursor to aspirin, salicylic acid, can be made at home in an emergency setting, as aspirin was first derived from the willow tree. Egypt's President Mohamed Morsi will address the nation today as protests continue in the streets and clashes between sectarian groups intensify. Protests are being planned for this weekend, calling for the president's removal, causing many Egyptians to begin stockpiling basic food supplies and weapons, fearing continued unrest throughout the nation. Protesters are clashing ahead of the address today as the army issued a statement saying that it will take control of the streets if the situation leads to increased violence. The U.S. economy grew less than expected this year, with the country's gross domestic product growing at only 1.8% as consumers continue to spend less than estimated. The revision caused many economists to question whether the Federal Reserve could effectively slow their quantitative easing policy, confirming something that economic watchers have long suspected. Controversy surrounds leaked government communication cables between Japanese authorities and the U.S. An envoy to the Japanese Prime Minister has reportedly promised U.S. officials that Japan would resume using its plutonium-burning light water reactors as soon as possible. The promise conflicts with the Japanese zero-nuclear policy and states that Japan is planning to reopen up to 50 nuclear reactors that have been offline since the 2011 Fukushima disaster. Reports surrounding the fate of Edward Snowden continue to confuse today, as Ecuador denies that it has issued refugee documents that would grant the former NSA contractor with limited international travel abilities. Snowden has yet to be seen publicly as officials continue to raise questions about possible Russian interception and the leaker's inability to travel in lieu of a passport that U.S. authorities revoked this week. The possibility that Ecuador would grant Snowden asylum brought to light a growing divide between the country and the U.S. The political division has persisted since Ecuador's president refused to renew a Department of Defense contract in 2007 that would allow the U.S. to keep an army base on the country's coast. And to wrap things up, a police operation being labeled as drug enforcement leaves 9 dead in Brazil, where hundreds of riots and protests continue to occur, and Syrian rebels lose another town in their war with Assad. And that's it for this episode of News in 2 Minutes. Check back tomorrow for more news that the aware need the most. This week's News in 2 Minutes is brought to you by sqmetals.com, where you'll find great deals on gold, silver, platinum, and coins from reliable people who care. Visit sqmetals.com today.